Good evening, everyone, and we're going to call to order the June 2nd, 2014 City Council meeting. And tonight we're honored to have Alex Abrams here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Alex. Please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Hey, Alex, you mind if I ask you a couple questions? Why don't you come over here to the microphone? I appreciate you being here with us tonight. Now, what grade are you in and what school do you go to?
Second and Sunnybrook.
You go to Sunnybrook second, and you're going to be in third grade?
Yes.
That's fun. And who was your teacher last year?
Miss Bevel.
What was her name?
Miss Bevel.
Miss Bevel. And what was your favorite subject? Did you like to read? Do you like recess?
Yes.
I liked recess too. I was pretty good at recess. That was about it. So, and then your mom's with you tonight, isn't she?
Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We appreciate it. Thank you. And with that, Alex's mom is going to talk about her other job. Maria, if you'd come forward, please.
He's going to the third grade, so that question kind of threw him off a little bit.
Timing's tough right now. What grade are you in?
And PE is actually his favorite subject. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm just here for a second to talk to you about an event that we'll have in Stillwater this weekend. It is called the Chicken Wings of Hope. And I'm sure that sounds very exciting to you, so I'll tell you even more about it. I'm the executive director of the Wings of Hope here in Stillwater, and we'll have our first chicken wing cook-off ever. And one of the judges is sitting among you. He's our mayor. So this is a family fun day that we're having on Saturday, June 7th at Couch Park. It'll be from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The mayor will be eating wings from around 11 to 2. So, so come on an empty stomach.
I'm bringing my son, and he could eat wings from 11.
Okay, well. And during that time, we'll have live music and other food for others to enjoy. So we hope the community will come out. I'm a mom, as you know, and I know sometimes there's not enough for us to do around here, so we thought about having the event. It was named by a student from Cushing. He came up with the idea, and we thought, why not just do it? So we're going to do it, and we're happy that the mayor will be with us to enjoy all of the wings for hours. So that's this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. We'll have live music, fun games for children, and it's just a wonderful thing to do. And thanks to the mayor for having us and for eating a lot of wings.
Thank you.
Take care.
You guys have any questions about the event?
No, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. You did great. Okay, that's going to take us down to our consent docket. Does anybody wish to take anything off the consent docket? Now, is there a motion on the consent docket?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. That is approved 5-0. That'll take us down to public hearings, and our first is receive public comment regarding a request for a specific use permit. Do we have good service on this, Mr. Dorman?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Ms. Dennison.
Good evening, Paula Dennison with Development Services. What we have before you this evening is a request for a specific use permit, or SUP, as we'd like to call them. And this is for a counseling service at the end of High Point Drive. The dark line is Boomer, and this is High Point. It only extends public part, a portion of the way down. This is the piece of property, this is a piece of property here that is accessed off of a driveway that serves all of these properties. It's an existing building, so there's no exterior modification at all. The SUP is required for the healthcare and social assistance to be allowed in the zoning district that is the CS. So there's identification of it. And the findings, it is allowed in that zoning district with an SUP. There's similar uses around it, and there's no external modifications. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them regarding this request.
Any questions for Ms. Dennison? All right, thank you. Okay, we will open a public hearing, and we do not have any requests to speak in favor or against. And is the applicant here? I was going to give them the opportunity if they, but I don't believe so. So we will open and close the public hearing. Ms. Dennison.
The Planning Commission does send a unanimous vote of approval for this recommendation.
Any questions for Ms. Dennison at this time? Okay. Is there a motion on this recommendation?
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept Planning Commission's recommendation. And that is approved 5-0. I'll take us down to our second public hearing to receive public comment regarding a request of closing a portion of a utility easement. Do we have a good notice on this, Mr. Dorman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Dennison.
Yes, thank you again. This is a request to close some additional easements on the property. Y'all have had it before you previously, closing of portion of the right-of-way of Boomer. This is the area that has a preliminary planned unit development. The zoning is already in place. As the site is being further developed on paper, there's identification of additional easements that need to be closed in order for them to work out the full build-out that is proposed under the PUD. And you can see those in the hatched area at this location, and also along the south at this location here. There is an existing electric easement in the southern, electric line in the southern easement that's proposed to be closed. The easement is to be the line is to be relocated, and that will commence with the approval of the building part of the development as they progress further along, and the closing will only occur now. There will be no vacating of the easement until the electric line is relocated. That will allow Stillwater Electric Utility to continue to service and maintain this line, because it does feed other properties off-site. Does allow for the continued development, and the lines will be relocated.
Questions? Okay, thank you. We will open up our public hearing, and we have one request to speak. Kelly Harris.
Good evening, Kelly Harris with Keystone Engineering, located at 923 South Lowry, here representing what they have now purchased the property, so they're the owners and developers. Paula did an excellent job describing what has happened and what we need to happen with the easement closings. I'm just here to answer any additional questions.
You guys have any questions for Ms. Harris?
No.
All right,
Thank you.
Okay. We do not have any other requests, so we'll close our public hearing and ask Ms. Dennison to give the recommendation.
Thank you. This is a little different than what you typically have. Typically, it's the Planning Commission making a recommendation to you. Closing requests do not go through the Planning Commission, just directly from staff. So staff does recommend approval of this request.
And I so move.
Second.
Motion and second to approve staff's recommendation. That is approved 5-0. We will go down to resolutions. We have resolution CC 2014-5, resolution City Council adopting operating budget fiscal year 2014 to 15. Mr.
Okay,
Galloway.
the proposed budget was published in accordance with state statute several weeks ago. There's been two city council discussions since that time, as well as public hearing. The budget amounts have been thoroughly discussed, and remain the same. You have placed on your table tonight, there were a couple of corrections to the paper that were included in your document. There was a adjustment to the other tax column to make sure it included the hotel motel tax. It was also a part of the transfer, so it did not change the total numbers of the budget. It was just a correction of the number in the correct place. It was also a correction to the transfer of the transportation fund taxes to SUA for those projects. Again, that did not change the total, but made a correction to the line that was presented in. Again, we've had the public hearing and council input, and staff recommends approval of the resolution adopting the proposed budget for fiscal year 2015.
Any questions of Mr. Galloway on this resolution? I guess we still got some reviewing.
We're looking for a motion?
I was making sure I know she's.
I read it. I had to
okay.
read all these notes, yeah.
Ready for a motion? I will accept a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt a resolution. I just lost it. 2014-5, I believe.
15.
2014-5.
Right, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong number.
Just making sure. Okay.
You are correct.
And that is approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Take us down to ordinances. We have several on first reading. First is ordinance 3261. Mr. Dorman.
An ordinance authorizing the long-term lease of a certain parcel of property located at 907 West 12th Avenue, providing for citizen-initiated referendum of said lease in accordance with Section 4-2 of the city charter. This is the cleanup of the land that was leased to the hospital on 12th Street for the facility. There was an additional parcel that basically allows them to access the property that was left off of the original conveyance because we had some title issues. We've now resolved those, and we're bringing this ordinance forward to complete that transaction.
Any questions for Mr. Dorman? Is there a motion on ordinance 3261?
Move to adopt ordinance 3261.
Second.
Motion and a second on ordinance 3261. It's approved 5-0. That'll take us to ordinance 3262.
An ordinance closing a portion of general utility easement at a property addressed as 3100 North Madison Court.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second on ordinance 3262. Approved 5-0. Ordinance 3263.
An ordinance rezoning attractive land located at 220 to 312 West Elm Avenue and 140 South Husband Street from RTM Residential Two-Family and Multifamily District to RMI Residential Multifamily Intermediate District to HR High Rise District.
Is there a motion on ordinance 3263?
Move to adopt.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second.
Motion's actually advanced to second.
It's approved 5-0. It'll take us to ordinance 3264.
An ordinance rezoning attractive land located at 1723 West Lakeview Road from RTM Residential Two-Family and Multifamily District to RMI Residential Multifamily Intermediate District.
Our motion on 3264.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second on 3264. That's also approved 5-0. Okay, that'll take us down to reports from officers and boards. Mr. Dorman.
Request an executive session for the purpose of confidential communication regarding the purchase or appraisal of real property pursuant to 25 OS subsection 307B3.
Wonderful. Anything else?
That's all tonight, sir.
Mr. Galloway.
Nothing other than to say I appreciate all the council members' diligent hard work in reviewing the budget, and it's particularly hard job for two councils coming on board right in the middle of the budget process, and I know that that's overwhelming at times, but we appreciate the time you spent with it and going through the details. I think staff always learns from the process as well, and every year we try to use what we learn to make it easier next year. So thanks for your suggestions and your help on this year. And, look forward. I'm glad we did it this early. We still have legally probably 8 or 10 days left, but this does give the finance, accounting staff time to get the books set up for July 1. At the same time, they're going through processes closing out the year, so they'll appreciate the extra few weeks, and thank you.
All right. Anything from City Council? Okay. I've got a couple. I will be on KSPI tomorrow from 8:15 to about 8:45 on 780 AM, and then Triple Play Radio on Wednesday morning. And then also congratulations to Stillwater High School graduates, and also baseball regional champions. So good fun weekend in Stillwater the last couple weekends. Okay. Anything for upcoming meetings? Okay. Well, we're going to recess City Council meeting, and we'll come back and take up our executive session when we're finished with our other meetings. But next, we're going to call to order the Utility Authority meeting. So you guys flip over to that agenda. And there is one item on the consent docket for the Utility Authority.
And I would move approval of the consent docket.
Second.
Motion and second to approve consent docket. That is approved 5-0. All right, that's going to take us down to general orders. Power generation station completion plan. Mr. Blankenship.
Thank you, Chairman and Trustees. Dan Blankenship, SUA Director. Just wanted to start out by giving a little bit of, credit to the staff that's helped me out with this project. It's quite an endeavor, and I have at least a couple of them sitting right behind me. Lauren Smith, our generation and transmission manager, kind of my wingman on this project, and certainly someone who may get up and have an opportunity to speak this evening. I've asked him to sit here and also remind me of maybe some things that I forgot. And then next to him, Lee Jackson, our electric engineering manager, both individuals who've been really critical in this project and have a tremendous amount of experience with the utility and electric generation in particular. I started today off like just about every other Monday, answering questions, responding to issues. And then about 9 o'clock, I started to think about this project and this presentation I was going to make tonight. And I had something in my mind that a direction that I was going to go. And then I had a fortunate event occur in which I had a conversation with Councilor Noble. And she gave me what turned out to, I think, really be a golden nugget. And she really gave me a gift of perspective. And I took a step back and changed my whole approach. And so tonight, I hope to not so much do a presentation, but to have a conversation and to answer questions that I think that will be beneficial to you all, to help you make a decision and help the public understand what we're trying to do here. And she asked me some few simple questions. Well, they're simple questions, but they're certainly not simple answers, but I'm going to try and make them as easily to understand as I can. Why? You know, why are we proposing to build a power plant? Well, I'll even take a step back from that and say, you know, why we do what we do. And we do what we do because we have an obligation to our customers, and that's to do what's in their best interest. And everything that we do, every endeavor we take, that's the first thing we ask ourselves. And we continue to ask ourselves that question, you know, throughout time. And you know, what does that mean from an electric perspective? And I think simply what it means is to provide low-cost, reliable power to our customers. That's what you know, serving their best interests is. For the past 2.5 years, Lauren Smith and I have asked that question to ourselves time and time again as we've worked through this project. Every aspect of this project, we've asked that question to ourselves and answered it affirmatively. This started, like I say, about 2.5 years ago when we realized that we had an antiquated power plant in Boomer Lake Station. It's well past its lifespan, any practical lifespan, but it's been very beneficial to us. It's been very beneficial to us, and it's helped us to have a revenue source to offset costs of purchased power. But almost more importantly, at the end, it gave us some leverage. When we started negotiating a contract, we had really a couple opportunities. We could have negotiated with OMPA and with GRDA. We talked with OMPA, and then we started talking with GRDA. And GRDA's response was very much, here, all of our municipals have signed this standard contract. You sign the contract too. In fact, I stood at their boardroom, just like I'm standing here, and made a proposal to them. And they basically said, Mr. Blankenship, go back to your trustees and tell them they can sign the same contract that all of the other municipals had signed. So that's where we were. Well, once we decided and started to do some research on this power plant, we went back to both OMPA and GRDA. OMPA said, I don't know if we're interested because we're building a power plant up here in Ponca City. We went to GRDA and they said, you know what, our demand is growing. We're very interested in maybe partnering with you. But before we do, we need to have a feasibility study. So both of us undertook a feasibility study, GRDA and the SUA. And then we came together after the feasibility studies were complete at the beginning of 2013. And the outcome of the study was that it would be mutually beneficial for the SUA and GRDA to somehow partner or through a contractual relationship to have a power plant here in Stillwater. What that basically then did was it enabled us to sit down at the table with GRDA and negotiate every phrase of the contract that was being proposed. There was not one phrase within the entire contract that was ultimately approved by both you all and their board that was untouched. We basically got a customized contract because we had that leverage, because they had a desire for additional resources in this area, and we already had the resources, and we had a desire to add resources. So that's one thing that the generation has done for us. But why a new power plant? How is that in the best interest of our customers? And at any time throughout this, like I said, I'd like to be conversational, so if you have questions, interject something, please, stop me and we can talk about any of the points that I'm trying to make. But I think that, I truly believe that the best interest of our customers lies in our ability to maintain some control of our power costs. And I think the key point there is to maintain. We're not getting into the generation business. The city of Stillwater has been in the generation business since 1903. We have a long history of being in the generation business. And like I say, these two gentlemen who are sitting behind me, out of that century, they've been involved in it with more than a quarter of that century. So we have been in that business, and it's that business that has allowed us to provide low-cost power throughout the years. We've been able to, in fact, until 1966, we had full control. And then since then, we've had a varying amount of control. Without generation resources, we have no control over our power cost. We're simply a whole full requirements customer of GRDA, and whatever their rates are, and that's what we pay. With generation resources, we have the capability to create what I'll call a margin. The margin can be used to offset future costs, and it can be used to or applied to the current costs. And the cost savings, because we are basically a cost of service, take a cost of service approach, those cost savings can certainly be passed on to our customers. I can't tell you or guarantee you how much that margin will be, but without generation resources, I can guarantee that there will be no margin. The proposed plant, and I'll talk a little bit about the proposed plant. It was designed specifically to play into the integrated marketplace, and that's the current market, energy market that we're in this region, and it is expected to return a yield. However, we've taken a really ultra-conservative approach to the financial feasibility of this project. Basically, we have, when we've estimated our costs, we've estimated on the high end. Out of our $70 million project budget, $2.6 million of that is just contingency on our revenues that we are planning for to offset the costs. We have estimated the minimum level of capacity payment that GRDA has contracted to pay us. We fully anticipate that the capacity payment will be higher, but once again, we took the ultra-conservative route. In addition to capacity payment, the contract requires GRDA to pay us an energy payment, and that's every time that we actually generate energy. The capacity payment is just for the plant being there. If it's there and it's operational, they have to pay us that minimum payment of approximately $4.3 million per year. Once again, we expect it to be more. And every time we generate electricity, they will have to pay us a energy payment, and the energy payment will cover all of our variable costs plus a margin. So there will be addition to our margin. The plant that we have designed, and we went out and we assembled a team of experts, national experts. We selected a consulting firm that has built half a dozen of these types of plants in the last 2 or 3 years, a financing team, a legal team, to ensure that we had put together a team of experts that will give us the highest level of advice, so that once again we felt that that's in the best interest of our customers to be able to be informed to the greatest level that we possibly can. And what we came up with is a plant. It's a internal combustion reciprocating engine. It's like a big giant boat engine, like a cruise liner ship, but they're used for power generation, and there's a number of examples that are in existence. There's some in Texas, there's some in New Mexico, some in Kansas. But these particular engines, and they're gas-fired, they're very high efficiency. In fact, if we proceed with this project, it will be the most efficient simple cycle plant in the state of Oklahoma. And because of, as technology and the industry evolves, when it goes online, it may very well be the most efficient simple cycle plant in the United States. But
And to that point, and you'd fully expect it to be, if the most recent plant
Absolutely.
built is going to be the most efficient around. So assuming we build that plant and it's the most efficient around, wouldn't you expect, I think the answer is yes, the Southwest Power Pool will call upon it more often than what they would call on our old plant?
Oh, yeah.
So and we would expect them and hope that they would call us into
Absolutely.
operation. How can I want to hear you talk about, with the plant operating more, how that increases or decreases revenue, and how that increases and decreases expenses, and how that net works for us.
Okay, very good question. As far as the expenditure, let's start with the personnel. Currently, we have a plant or a system. It's really a system/plant operator who is on station 24/7 at Boomer Lake Station. We have not operated BLS to generate electricity for any period of time since probably the year 2000, at least 14 years. So The operator is predominantly doing system operation, and that's the operation of our transmission system, the operation of our 8 substations, and the operation of our distribution system. And then we have maintenance and operation crews, and they predominantly do work on our transmission system and our substations.
I guess I'm mainly talking about the generation station's expenses.
Okay, so, but that, right now, so when we, in the existing situation, in the new situation, the new plant actually doesn't require an operator. Believe it or not, the new plant will be operated remotely from Little Rock, Arkansas. That's the home of the SPP. Our chairman was like, "What are you talking about, Dan?"
I'm just glad he wasn't going to stay at his house with a joystick.
No, it's not going to be operated from my house.
To be
I don't know how much joy that would be anyway. But the SPP is located in Little Rock, Arkansas. And under the integrated marketplace, they have functional control over all generation resources. That means they have over the public resources, GRDA, OMPA, all of the co-ops, and the investor-owned, OG&E, gets dispatched by the SPP. They pick who runs. And it's not only based on the efficiency of the plant, but it's how much it costs to get from the generation source to the consumption source. So there's transmission in between. So there's costs there. So they do what's called a locational marginal price, and that's how they determine how they dispatch. So we don't need to have an operator at the plant, but we still need to have an operator to operate our system, our transmission system, and to operate our distribution system in the substations. So that individual would be housed at the new plant because we've talked to other owners of these types of plants, and they say it's best, even though they're going to remotely get you started and stopped, to have someone there in case something happens. But as far as then the staffing, we will continue to use the same staff to do the same things that they're doing right now. So as far as that cost, it's a wash. Operational costs, when we're not running, we don't have any additional costs. So, but when we are running, we have gas costs, and that is actually part of all of the variable costs are built in to the energy payment. And so what we have negotiated is a formula in the contract that for every kilowatt hour that we generate, or the SPP dispatches us and we generate, GRDA will pay us based on that formula. And that formula will cover our operational, is designed to cover our variable costs, which are the costs that are associated with generation.
It's got to do better than cover.
Well,
right?
It's designed to do that, and we anticipate that it will generate a margin.
Because the Southwest Power Pool will call on this plant.
Absolutely, because this plant,
operating it.
yeah, because this plant is what they call in the industry is designed to chase the wind. And that means that it's there for, in the industry now, I think we all know that the number of renewable generation sources is growing. Not so much hydro isn't growing a lot, but wind and solar is growing. It's becoming a bigger and bigger component. Well, the things that generate those things, the rain, the wind, and the sun, are intermittent. It comes and it goes. The power demand doesn't just come and go. People don't say, "Oh, it's cloudy outside, can't use power." So the market or the industry needs to have some form of fossil fuel generation to back up the renewable source. And that's what these facilities are specifically designed for, because these engines, these large engines, are called fast strike black start engines. You don't need any power to start them. You don't need a hot power line to start them. And within 5 minutes, they can be ramped up to full speed. And so as the SPP monitors the weather and the demand, and they do this on an hourly basis, and they see in western Oklahoma where the wind farms are that the wind's going to start to diminish 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then they're like, we've got to balance this power, and we've got a plant in Stillwater that can start in 5 minutes. We're going to run them. And so when we've talked to the other operators of similar plants, they've told us that they've run probably 3 times the amount of time that they expected before they built the plant. And that's what, when we did in the feasibility study, part of our feasibility study, we actually ran a model. We had a consultant run a model of the entire SPP, and it's their model, and you input your facility, and it predicts how often that they would call on you, and that was part of the assessment and determination of the, that this would be a
This
feasible.
has nothing to do with Stillwater's need. This has
No.
everything to do with just the regional.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's in the integrated marketplace. It's truly integrated. It's all of the generation resources and all of the transmission resources are functionally controlled by the Southwest Power Pool.
So do we benefit more, what I'm trying to get to is, do we benefit more the plant is running? Because
Yes.
the only way the citizens benefit from this is if we're making money every day we're running.
Right.
Offset.
I cannot, yes. I cannot tell you what that margin will be, but yes, we fully expect there to be. We are very confident that there will be a margin. And I cannot tell you, what the magnitude of that margin will be.
You made a statement a minute ago, that this is what I heard, and so please correct me if I did not hear it correctly, that in the conservative numbers, that you went with the minimum capacity payment.
Yes.
What would cause the capacity payment to be larger than the minimum?
One of the primary factors is the efficiency of the engines. We have used the advertised efficiency numbers in calculating from the manufacturers, but they're guaranteeing that. Plus, in our contract documents for the engines, we have actually put performance requirements so that they have to guarantee it financially. But in our expectation after talking to the others who are operating similar plants, and they're telling us that these engines are performing at a higher efficiency level. So we have very good reason to expect, because that the engine manufacturers have set a standard that they can easily beat with efficiency. And so that's the primary. Lauren, is there?
The higher efficiency will relate in a higher capacity payment.
Right.
The more SPP utilizes our plant, the more valuable it is to GRDA, the higher payment they'll make to us. Is that a decent red crayon explanation?
Yeah, that's pretty basic, and you think about GRDA's perspective or position in here, and there's a number of secondary benefits, and one of them of those secondary benefits, or what I'm going to call secondary benefits, is that I want to tell you that I think that GRDA is assuming the majority of the risk with this project, because basically they have contracted with the SUA to pay up to $117 million for a plant that's going to be dispatched by a third party. They need to earn up to $117 million on the operation of this plant to even break even. So if they have any idea of what they are doing, which I think that they do, they have a pretty good reassurance that this plant is going to earn them over the time frame in excess of $117 million.
If I could, and I think trustees understand it, but there's a couple of questions that kind of crossed over here. Mr. Blankenship's talking about when the SPP calls for power and turns it on, and that creates additional payments from GRDA. That's energy costs.
That's energy.
That's separate from capacity payments.
Right.
There's two sources of payments from GRDA.
Correct.
And as I understand, the capacity one is based on the efficiency and the capacity of the
Right.
generating facilities it sets there.
Right.
And First of all, when you say it's extremely conservative, we've used, the numbers we're presenting would be if it never runs.
Right.
Or ever run, which is not likely. It's still completely paid for by the capacity payment, plus if it's more efficient, there would be even a positive margin even if it never runs. So the value is having that capacity and some potential margin. That's an absolute worst case scenario, is to own it, have it completely paid for, and have some margin. The good news is there's other margin related when they do run it. And we have not put that into the financing formula. That will be above and beyond anything that's presented.
And I think another secondary benefit is it's not just a power generation plant. In addition to the power generation plant, the facility that we have designed includes the system operations center, which it doubles as a plant operations center and a system operations center, a management and maintenance facility, and a new upgraded substation that includes a transmission switching system. Those things, are things that we will continue to need even if we get out of the generation business. We need a system operations center. Right now, our system operations center is in Boomer Lake Station in this 1950 vintage plant. And when you go in there, it feels like, you step back to the 1950s. Our maintenance facility, we have an excellent maintenance facility, but if we still need that maintenance facility for the transmission system and for the substations. But as far as the substation out there, Ferguson substation at the corner of Airport and Jardot, where we're proposing the plant to be, that is an older substation that needs to be upgraded. And we, on a periodic basis, go through and we go in and rebuild our substations. At some point in time in the near future, we're going to have to rebuild that substation. So that's a bonus, so to speak. And then we're also adding some switching to that component, to that substation, that will enhance and fortify the reliability of our system. So
when the Southwest Power Pool calls, and they will, and it'll run
absolutely
all the time, the market risk of price fluctuations in natural gas. Who's going to get to eat that market risk?
It's in the formula.
Right along with
yes.
the product.
Yeah. We have in the formula, it establishes, we actually pay on an index, and it's Oklahoma City index. And so it's spelled out in the contract.
So we don't care what the price of natural gas is. That will pass right along with the
operation. We care to the extent that anything that GRDA pays for ultimately ends up in their rates.
Right.
So buying power from GRDA, we have an incentive to try and keep the costs as low as we possibly can.
Well, but
it doesn't directly impact our customer.
I don't want our customers to have to pay increased costs because natural gas prices go up.
Right.
And for power we're not using, we're paying increased costs.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely.
So those costs need to pass right on through and head right back out into the power pool.
Right.
And they do by the contract?
Yes, they do. They are recovered through the energy payment, because that's a variable cost. Another secondary benefit is grid independence. And in my conversation this morning with Councilor Noble, she asked me, she said, when's the last time that we've had the bulk power system in this area go down? And I thought, and I said, it hasn't. I don't think it ever has. It has in California, it has in Arizona and Texas and Florida in the Northeast. But then when I sat down later this morning and started talking with Lauren Smith, I recalled that actually the first weekend in March we got really close. The first weekend in March we had what the SPP calls a transmission hotspot. just basically centered on Stillwater. They called us to generate. They called us to fire up Boomer Lake Station. Boomer Lake Station didn't fire up.
How long did it take?
How long did it take? It took us about 10 hours to get it ready to run, and then when we started to run it, it wouldn't. So we basically spent all of the money, all of the time and gas to get the boilers running, and when it came time to start generating electricity, the old girl said no. And so not only did we were down for about 3 weeks, or 2 to 3 weeks, and so we didn't get the full capacity payment, and then we had additional costs associated with that. But to make my point, as far as the vulnerability of our system, there were plants down. There were plants down for maintenance because it's the middle of the winter, more or less. There were plants down for winter, but more importantly, we had really low temperatures, and evidently on our wind generation or the wind generation turbines, once it gets to a certain temperature, low temperature, they shut them down. And so we had a situation where all that was occurring. They even called OMPA and asked them to fire up the generation in Kingfisher, which I understand you might even need to crank it to get it started up. I mean, it's maybe this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I think they had a few squirrels in cages lined up because it was a situation where we had a major vulnerability. Whereas if we would have had the quick start engines, we'd have been on it and we would have been generating through that whole period. So it hasn't happened. Could it happen? Yes. And if it does happen, the good news is there's 200 and some days out of the year that we can provide with the capacity of the proposed plant. We can provide all of the electricity for the entire community.
Well, but really, if the grid goes down, we'll have bigger problems than we won't need to be generating electricity probably.
Oh, yeah, we will.
I think this is so unlikely that
It is, but
we
I
wouldn't
think-
build a plant for this reason.
No, but it's a secondary benefit. It's a secondary benefit.
I think a more realistic issue, how does the electricity physically get to us right now?
Right now, it comes over the transmission grid into the substations. There's a substation on 51, East 51, North Tap, which is north off of Jardeau, Kinsey, which is out by the Botanical Gardens, and then 19th Street substation out a little past the
Now, there's
firehouse.
4 different main transmission lines coming from GRDA.
Well, it's not necessarily coming from GRDA. We purchased the power from GRDA, but once the electrons get on the transmission...
Better way for me to ask this.
Yeah.
Are those coming from 4 independent locations? So where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
forget the grid going down. If there's a tornado between here and Tulsa that wipes out that main transmission line, how does that impact us?
It could impact us from a voltage standpoint. We had a situation when we had a problem out west, and when it went down, we had some serious voltage drops across our system that caused some problems for our customers. So voltage management is an issue. So it's unlikely that we would lose everything, but if we lose some of it, we would have the ability, to pick it up, which is probably even good news, is because if we're only partially out, we could probably even carry the city through even the high peak periods. So, but it's kind of one of those things that if something does happen, we do have that, but we can also tout that from an economic development standpoint and power reliability by saying we have a new power station right here that's actually in the industrial area. So from a reliability standpoint and a voltage control standpoint, those are things I think that are important to industry. Also, from an economic development standpoint, which I think is another secondary benefit, is that the northeast area, our industrial area, I understand, is underserved by natural gas. The system out there is inadequate to meet the needs of the undeveloped property. And in fact, we have letters from the Stillwater Industrial Foundation and the Chamber of Commerce supporting this project, because this project will be a catalyst for the improvement of the natural gas system in our industrial area. And so by us locating out there, the gas company will bring in gas facilities that will then have the capability not only to serve us, but to properly serve the vacant land in the industrial area. So it's, from that perspective, it would benefit us also. And so, but as far as, the worst case, if we proceed, not including catastrophic events beyond our control, we believe that our proposal is the worst case that we will face. If we do nothing, we give up our ability to generate a margin, we lose control, we give up our leverage in future negotiations. The best case is the plant performs as expected, the capacity payments higher than the guaranteed amount, and the margin increased by energy payments. Somewhere in between there is probably where we're going to lie. The looming deadline, why are we pushing to get this done? And it's because we're at the threshold of affordability for the this worst case scenario, or the proposal that we have. In order to be able to afford the entire project, which includes, like I was talking about, those additional facilities. Those additional facilities are estimated to be worth about $8.5 million. And it would be nice to be able to have those facilities paid for by the GRDA capacity payment and not paid for directly by the rates, the electric rates that our customers pay. And so, and with probably the two factors that are driving that, the current interest rates and the amount of time left on the contract. And so that's kind of what's the looming deadline at this point. If we're willing to possibly sacrifice some of the additional improvements, we can go on down the road a little bit further and still be able to pay for the power plant with the capacity payments. But as time goes on and we no longer have enough money then to cover those other items, then we'll have to do those some other way. So once again, why, we really believe, in the 2.5 years that we've spent working on this project, we truly believe that it is in the best interest of our customers. I have more than 100% confidence in these gentlemen behind me who have spent more than a quarter century each in the generation business. We've put together a group of advisors who we believe are the top in the nation to advise us. And I think that it's, if we move forward with the plant, we enable ourselves to have some control over our power costs and to create a margin, which certainly would benefit our customers. And if we don't move forward, the only guarantee is there is no benefit. So it's my recommendation that the trustees confirm the proposed debt issuance for the power generation station project is in compliance with the amended SUA trust indenture and authorize staff to continue with the project as planned. The reason that I'm asking you to confirm that this debt issuance is in compliance with the amended trust indenture is because the rating agencies have specifically asked for that. We are, and if we get the green light to proceed, we are ready to advertise for the engines. They have the longest lead time. In order for us to advertise for the engines, that means that we're going to be opening bids, and before we can award a bid, we have to have the money. We basically have to get the proceeds of the debt issuance so that we can award that bid, and we still have a process that we have to follow in order to, one, get this information to the rating agency. They'll issue the formal rating, and then we go through the remainder of the financing process and concurrently, we would be advertising and accepting bids on the engines, and we included a copy of a project schedule, and we have tried to put as many things in there concurrently to minimize the time frame for the project, but we're still looking at 24 months to commercial operation. So that's why we're asking you for the confirmation of that the proposed debt issuance for the power generation station project is in compliance with the amended trust indenture.
Before we start talking the substance of any of this, part of this is a legal question. And so before we get to the technical side, let's address this legal question. They're wanting us to confirm this is in conformity with the trust agreement.
Yes.
Legal question, city attorney.
The short answer is, this contract does not happen if this power plant is not built. So it is a new revenue source. It is a source of revenue that you have never had before. It is clearly, in my opinion, clearly within the exception that was established in Section B of the trust indenture.
So that's a yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Legal question out of the way, now we can talk technical.
You said 24 months. You
Yes.
are on July 2016, correct?
Yes. That's the earliest that we can reasonably expect commercial operation of the plant.
And the repayment will be formulated so that it does not extend past the contract that we have with GRDA.
Correct. Yeah, it will. The proposal is to have the final payments, a 28-year term of debt, which would carry us through the term of the contract. So the debt would not extend beyond the term of the GRDA contract.
And if in the best case scenario, we do have a margin,
Yes.
those funds would go into the electric rate stabilization fund, or?
That is our recommendation, yes, that all of the revenues would be placed into the rate stabilization fund. That's where the debt payment would be made from. And then with the margin, the trustees then could make decisions on how that money is used. It could be used to pay down the debt early, like I said, or it could be used to offset future costs, or could be applied to current costs at that time.
What I would like to do, and yeah, I've heard that suggestion, and I would like to put it in the form of a resolution for the trust so that it's clearly documented that that's the intent, that those margins will go to the SRF. The SRF is a fund that is subject to special appropriation of this trust, so that anything spent out of that fund always comes here, and that gives assurance that those funds will always be there. And so we'll prepare a resolution prior to the issuance, the actual debt issuance, so that will be clear. You'll have that opportunity to adopt that by resolution if you'd like.
I think this sounds like a benefit to Stillwater residents.
We believe it is. We truly do. I can't say enough about how much effort has gone into this by these three gentlemen and others, but there's not a stone left unturned in analyzing this thing. There have been thousands of questions over the last couple of years as this has been dealt with, and I'm confident it's been examined in every possible way. And if there were any other things, I just really appreciate what they've done with it. Plus, as Mr. Blankenship indicated, we've brought in some of the best experts in the country that we could find and relied on their additional evaluation. So we feel very, very confident that what's presented is in the best interest of the customers of the electric system.
Can you give a just super brief environmental impact, if any?
Absolutely. We are required to obtain an environmental permit from the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, and that's actually part of the consulting services that Burns & McDonnell will provide. They have already been in contact with the Department of Environmental Quality, and because of the type of plant that we are proposing, it has very, very few environmental impacts, but it will have to get an air permit. We'll also have to do analysis and a noise analysis, and depending on what type of noise that it generates and what the surrounding land use, we'll have to mitigate impacts. If there are any noise impacts, we'll have to evaluate and mitigate those and meet all of the noise standards and the emission standards. And the issuance of the environmental permit is a public process, and so there will be notifications and opportunities for surrounding property owners or anybody to comment before the permits would be issued.
Can you tell me, do you know what the surrounding property owners, the zoning?
Yes, we are proposing to construct a plant at the northwest corner of Jardeau and Airport. The property itself is surrounded by the state school land property. It's all zoned industrial. The city limits is Jardeau Road, so everything east of Jardeau Road is in the county, so there's no zoning in the county, but there's a commercial use to the south and east across Jardeau, and it's open land across directly east. And since it's zoned, it is actually zoned industrial, there would be no requirement, to my knowledge, for any type of rezoning or zoning action for this to occur at this location.
And there's not a bunch of homes around it?
Now, there's a small residential development known as Thomasville that is probably about a half a mile approximately to the north on the east side of Jardeau in the county.
Any other questions for Mr. Blankenship or staff?
Thank you.
All right, this has been a multi-year project with, I think we've gotten to this point a couple times. And so now it looks like we're at this point and the ability to proceed if that's what we want to do. And so just to make sure, Mr. Blankenship, the recommendation is really, it's twofold. One is a specific confirmation that this agreement is in conformity with our trust indenture.
Yes.
Okay, that's just one. And then the other recommendation is us authorizing city staff to proceed with the plan that's laid out before us to get this power plant built.
That is correct.
Short version.
That is correct. And then there, in the report, I identified about a half a dozen ensuing actions that would be necessary, formal actions that will be necessary to continue on with the project. But what we're looking for is, something that we can provide formally to the rating agencies and basically a green light to continue on with the project, because it's at this point we we're going to be seeing
you and your folks back multiple times between now and the next 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah, probably closer to 3.
To be specifically authorizing specific steps.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
But it really boils down to tonight. If we're going to move forward, it's tonight, and then the specific steps will come in the future.
That's correct. If we want to proceed with the entire project, our recommendation is it's the most economical to do that if we continue to proceed at this point.
Thank you. All right.
So you're not looking for a motion, or motion?
I can take motions, I can take a second, and then we can discuss all we want.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve staff's 2 recommendations. Do you need them separate, or?
No, you could do them together.
Okay. Does anybody wish to discuss this any further? or make any statements?
I spent quite a long time with Dan and Lauren this afternoon and Mr. Galloway, and I really appreciate the time spent answering questions.
I'll second that notion. I also spent that time, so, and it's very interesting. It's definitely, you know, if you're not involved in this process, you probably really don't understand it. And so it's interesting to see it all take place. And so I'm excited for the future, see what happens.
I'm glad we're at this point finally. Many years later. Okay, we have a motion second to approve staff's 2 recommendations. Let's vote. Four to 1 with Trustee Weaver voting no. All right.
Thank you very much. We will be back. One of the things that Councilor Darlington asked me this afternoon is, what are you going to do if we vote no on this project? And I said, well, we'll come in tomorrow and we'll continue to do our jobs with as much enthusiasm as we have today. But I can tell you we'll probably come in tomorrow with some excitement. And I mean, this is a big deal for this community. And so we'll take it serious. And I would be lying to you if I said that, you know, I wasn't, you know, a little bit nervous about it. But we're certainly going to work diligently to make sure that this project is a success. Thank you.
Okay, that's going to take us down to Resolution SUA 2014-4, Resolution Stillwater Utility Authority adopting operating budget for fiscal year 2014 to 15. All right, anything else to add, Mr. Galloway?
Nothing else to add. It's, again, it's the budget that you've seen prior and the public has seen prior. Recommend its approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion accept and a second on Resolution SUA 14-4. And that is approved 5-0. Anything from officers or trustees?
Nothing to report.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn SUA?
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. That's approved 5-0. SUA is adjourned, and we will call to order the Stillwater Economic Development Authority meeting. Only item on this agenda is Resolution CEDA 2014-2, resolution adopting CEDA budget for fiscal year 2014 to 15.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second. That's approved 5-0. Is there a motion to adjourn CEDA?
And make a motion to adjourn CETA.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn CEDA. That is approved 5-0. CEDA is adjourned. Oops. Take us to Stillwater Public Works Authority meeting. We'll call that to order. We do have an approval of minutes first on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2013? We meet once a year.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. As approved 5-0. Down on resolutions, SPWA 14-1, resolution Stillwater Public Works Authority adopting operating budget fiscal year 2014 to 15.
And move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve this resolution. It's approved 5-0. Is there a motion to adjourn Stillwater Public Works Authority?
So moved.
Second.
That's approved 5-0. SPWA is adjourned. We will reconvene City Council meeting, and there's been a request for an executive session. Is there a motion for this request?
I move to go into executive session for city council.
Motion is second. That's approved 5-0.